right, let's try to finish up this 1-5. It shouldn't take really much time. So the last thing we talked about was adjacent angles. So let's just review that just briefly. I'm not going to take a lot of time. I'm not going to do a deep dive on it. But this is kind of what it looked like when we did adjacent angles. All right, so let's say that's angle 1, that's angle 2. If you look at these two angles, see they're next to each other. And if you remember, they got to share a common side. Remember we talked about that? We wrote the two things down. They need to share a common side. And they can't have any common interior points. So look, if I put a point here, you can't have a point in both angles. So for instance, what's a situation where you could have a point in both angles? So let's use that whole big angle right there and call that angle 3. Everybody watching? Seems like I hear some chatter. I need you paying attention. And we'll pick that up, right? Yeah. So watch, if I put a point here, if I ask you for the adjacent angles, okay, what angles are the adjacent angles right here? Angles what and what? 1, 2, and 3? They're all 3 adjacent? Just angle 1 and 2. Okay, angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent. They're the ones that are next to each other. All right? It wasn't this class, it was another class. I said this. So adjacent basically means next to something. All right? So I would say my neighbor lives what? Adjacent to me, right? Because they're right next door to me. Okay? What if my house, now this is weird, just pretend, right? What if my house was inside somebody else's house? Now I have a small house. I just have a townhouse. I'm in a townhouse, so maybe there's a house that's, some of you guys might live in a real big house, but I live in a little townhouse. If I took my house, I could put it in somebody else's house. Does that mean we're adjacent to each other? No, because one's inside the other, right? All right, let's take a look at this. Look at angle 3. Angle 3 is kind of like the big house. Everybody see that? So is angle 1 and angle 3, are they adjacent to each other? No, because 1 is inside of angle 3. Everybody see that? What about 2 and 3? Are they adjacent to each other? No, because angle 2 is what? It's inside angle 3. But what about angle 1 and 2? Right? And my townhouse, I have an end unit, so on one side I don't share it with anybody, but I do share on the other side with somebody. So we have a common wall between us, right? Between the two houses. And so this is the common wall, or in this case, the common side between the two angles, all right? So if you remember, we talked about that yesterday. Did we say common side and no common interior angles? Or no common interior points, right? Yeah, okay. I was just making sure. I teach this 3 times. So I can't remember what class I said what in. But if you look at it, if I put a point right here, that's in angle 1, but could you put another point in angle 1 and also in angle 2? No, you couldn't. I could put points all around angle 1. They'll never be in angle 2. But could I put a point in angle 1 that's also in angle 3? Yeah, absolutely. Any point I put in angle 1, right? Any point in angle 1 would also be in angle 3. So that means they are not adjacent. So if I can put one point in both angles, it's not adjacent. If I can only put one point in one angle and one point in another angle, then they're adjacent. And they also have to share a common side. All right. I said I wasn't going to do a deep dive. I was on the verge of it. So let's move on. Let's do something a little different. This is called the angle addition postulate. I don't think we talked about this yesterday, did we? So it's called, write this down, angle addition, and it's called a postulate. Again, a postulate is just some rule that people in geometry give us. A postulate, we just accept as fact, all right? So we don't have to prove it. We just accept that it's factual. Now, this picture is going to look very, very similar to the last picture that we looked at. But we're going to do something just a little bit different with it. Okay?
Did we get our quiz back?
Not yet. I want to teach this first, then I'll do that. All right, so watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the 1 and 2 in there as well, and I'll put the 3 in there as well. So very similar to what we just did. But we're going to look at it in a little different way. Right, so there's angle 1, 2, and 3. Everybody can see that, right? What we're going to do is this. Let's talk about the measure of the angles, okay? So angle 1 could measure a certain degree. Angle 2 could measure a certain degree. So what I want you to figure out is if I know what angle 1 is equal to and I know what angle 2 is equal to, could you tell me what angle 3 is? For instance, let's put some numbers in there. I don't know if these are super accurate, but this one looks a little bit bigger than 2, so let's call this like 30 degrees. So angle 1 is 30 degrees. Let's call angle 2, I don't know, 20 degrees. It's a little bit smaller than that one, okay? So if I told you that angle 1, and this is what they're going to do on the homeworks, they're going to say angle 1 is 30 degrees. And then they're going to say angle 2 is 20 degrees. And what they're going to do is they're going to ask you, what is angle 3 equal to? Put a question mark there. All right? So take a look. What do you think off the top of your head? It's not that hard. Even the name of the postulate says it right there. What do you think? It's 50 degrees. How'd you get that? Just add the two angles together. That's right. Okay? If I want to find the whole big angle, I've got one angle that's 20. The other is 30, right? And then together, if I put them together, I just add them up. 20 and 30 is 50. Everybody see that? So that's the postulate. Our postulate says that we can add angles together like that. So if I know what that is and I know what that is, then I can add them up to get the whole thing. What if they told me something a little different? I mean, it's kind of the same, but it's a little different. What if they told me the whole big angle was 50 degrees? So angle 3. What if they told me angle 3 was 50 degrees, but I didn't know angle 1 and I needed to find it? So look, 50 degrees is the whole thing. 20 degrees is this one little part. How would you find the part that's left over? Just subtract it. Exactly. Okay? But subtraction is kind of like addition anyway. All right? Just adding the opposite. So anyway, that's what you would do. What's the work that you would do to find out angle 1? You would just go 50 minus what? 20, and that equals 30, and that would be 30 degrees. Everybody see that? So they could give you the 2, and then you have to find the whole big thing. Or they could give you the whole big thing and give you one of the other ones, and then you got to figure out what's left over, right? What's left over, you always subtract, don't you? Right? If you find out what's left over, yeah. So you're going to be doing quite a bit of that kind of stuff. But it's not always going to be quite that easy. It's not always going to be like a 20 degree and a 30 degree, that kind of thing. Sometimes they're going to put some algebra in there. They're going to put some variables in there. It doesn't look like I don't know. I'll have to look at the homework. They may not. I think they do that a little bit later. I think in the next lesson, they do some of that. Did we do a problem in here where we did some algebra? Like we had something that was like 2x minus 1, and we didn't do that thing where it set up to 75. We did that problem, didn't we? Yeah. But remember the whole thing was 75. I forget what it was. So yeah, we've done that before. Okay, so we've actually done a little bit of algebra before. So I'm not going to get into it. Let's just do an example from the book. Oops, let's just get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of this. All right, here's an example from the book. It's basically what we just finished doing, but it's an official example, so let's do it. This will be the last thing from this section, section 1.5. I think we've covered everything on this section. All right, so you got a big old angle like this, and then you got an angle kind of splits it like this. Put the arrows on the end. And this is angle 1. This is angle 2. They label it. This is B. This is A. This is D. And this is C. All right? So this is kind of stuff they're going to do on the homework. They're going to give you a picture that looks like this, and then they're going to ask you to find something, and they're going to give you some information about it. So here's what the question says. This is example 4. it says find angle 2 and angle BAD. All right. If, now they got to tell you something because they haven't told you anything, right? You have no idea about this. If angle 1 is 55 degrees, and they tell you one more thing. They also tell you, they say angle 1 is equal to angle 2. All right? So that's all the information they give you. So angle 1 and angle 2 are the same. They're equal to each other. So that helps us. It really, really helps us. We wouldn't be able to do this problem if we didn't know that they were equal to each other. But it also says that angle 1 is 55 degrees. So let's change this to, let's change to blue. All right. So let's put the stuff in there that we know. What do we know? We know that angle 1 is 55 degrees, right? So let's do that. Let's put that right in this spot right here, 55 degrees. We'll stick that right in the angle. They tell you one more thing. So they tell you that one of the angles is 55 degrees. They tell you one more thing, that angle 1 and angle 2 are equal to each other. Exactly right. So if angle 1 is 55 degrees, then what are we going to put inside of angle 2? 55 degrees. Very good. All right? Now again, the angles aren't always going to be equal to each other. You just have to go by the information they give you. All right? Ty, sit up. Pay attention. Okay, eyes open. Eyes open. Sit up. Sit up. Sit up. You're slanted. That's not sitting up. Sit up. Come on. Come on. Come on. Thank you. Just do what I ask you to do. That's all. It's not that big of a deal. So this is 55. This is 55. What is the question? It says find angle 2. We already did that. That's half of our answer right there, isn't it? We just found angle 2. It's 55 degrees. So here's our answer. Angle 2 is 55 degrees. What's the next thing that they ask you to find? Angle what? BAD. Let's find out where BAD is. BAD. It's that whole big angle. So how do I find that whole big angle if I know both of these? Just add them up. Exactly. That's what we just learned. The addition, the angle addition postulate. So we just add them up. So it's 55 plus 55. What is that? It's 110. So angle BAD is 110. I'll just write that right here. So angle BAD is equal to 110 degrees. And that's what you would circle right there. It's not too hard, is it? Yeah, I think it's pretty simple. I have a feeling, I haven't looked at all the problems in a while, so I'm not really sure, but I have a feeling that they may throw some variables in there. They might make this like 3x, or this is 2x plus 2, or something like that, okay? And then you're going to have to do a little bit of algebra. Let's listen, please. You're going to have to do a little bit of algebra to figure out what that angle is, all right? So here's we are officially finished section 1.5 finally. So here is your homework. I'm going to write it right here. You should have your lesson plan paper that I gave you on Monday, but if you don't, I'm putting it right here. So it's section 1.5. It's pages 27 to 29. Now, I think I did tell you yesterday, work on as many as you could, right? So you won't have as much to do tonight. Didn't I say that? I think I did. 34 to 45. But you have the rest of this class to work on it if you can actually work on it. This is not a free time. It's not a study hall, right? This is specifically to work on these problems. Work on these problems in class. All right? That's what we're doing from now until 11:15. That's about 20 minutes, 21 minutes, okay? So I want you to get your paper out that you're going to do your homework on. You should have your book, should be open, should be looking at these problems. You can work. If you want to get help from each other, I don't have a problem with that. Okay, it's not like a quiz or a test where you can't look at anybody's paper. If you want to talk to somebody, if it's about doing the homework, then that's perfectly fine. All right, but if it's just talking about stuff, that's unacceptable. I'll be walking around. If you have any questions, I'll be there to try to help you out a little bit. Dylan. I did. I just said earlier that I was going to pass it out when I finished this lesson. I said that earlier.
I never heard that.